This is Marianne Squares with Film Story Forum, a program that focuses on story as the heart of the collaborative art of filmmaking. Today we're talking about the award-winning screenplay and independent film, The Stonecutter, with writer-director Stefan Eriksson and star Michael Cavallari. Stefan, can you give us a little synopsis of the story?
The Stonecutter is a feature script that I first wrote in 1985. It's a story of an angry, heart-hardened, tortured young man who ran away from home when he was 17 and 13 years later gets a phone call from a stepmom he didn't even know he had and learns that his father, who's a master stonecutter, is dying. And he returns home to keep a promise he made to his father, and that promise is that he would cut his father's gravestone. And that's what sets the story in motion.
It's a prodigal son story.
Yeah, and it's about forgiveness and reconciliation. And I think what I was trying to do, perhaps naively at the time, was address the angry young man in myself, the angry young man type of issue. And I thought that I had enough distance from that when I was age 25 to actually kind of approach this and write it.
Is that where the inspiration came from yourself, or was there any other inspiration behind the story?
It's very close to me because I lost my mom when I was 17. She died of cancer after a long illness, and I'd lost my father previous to that. So I was in my early 20s, somewhat at war with the world. When I had the safety of graduate film school, I found a way to approach the story, which is that my brother-in-law, Ray, who's an Italian-American, had a life somewhat similar with high school tragedy, and then he ran away and went to Vietnam, was in hell in Vietnam for a number of years, and came back, and just to get his sanity back, became a sheep rancher on an Indian reservation for a number of years. Through the device, or to approach his character, to make this character like him, I was able to get at kind of what was going on inside me at the time. I always need a hook to get at the core essence that's part of me when I write a script. And so using the character of Ray, I was able to kind of get at that a little bit. And other characters in there are from my life, like the brother-sister relationship in there was, again, very much patterned after myself and my sister. And the whole idea of forgiveness, it's basically a love story between father and son. And I've seen how so many of us, so many guys anyway, carry so much baggage in relationships with their fathers, and they carry it for years and years and years. Some of it is never resolved.
What do you think, Michael? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, I mean,
because you had to relate to it for the character.
Yeah, this was something that as soon as I read it, wow, I was touched by the story, because I lost my mom to cancer, which is funny that we have so much in common, Stefan and I. I just saw a lot of heart there and a lot of stuff that was never dealt with in a script. And I was afraid. I was afraid to go there to deal with it, because I knew that you're never as honest as you say you are. You're not truthful with the person. You never looked at him and said, "I love you, Dad." And I tried to get to that point with my father, and through this story, actually, it was funny because we shot this movie, and I think I lost my dad maybe about 5 months or 6 months after. Yeah, we shot The Stonecutter. So there was so much going on in my head, and I just was compelled to be part of it. It helped me a lot to deal with my issues with my father and to be honest with him. And I got a chance to be honest before he passed away, and I think it was a blessing for me.
Is there any one thing about the screenplay that maybe was a clincher in deciding to do it?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, any actor wants to work, and to get an opportunity to play a role like this is just a great opportunity. I remember driving to the audition, and I was talking to my mom, and she's in heaven, and I'm like, "Mom, I'm scared. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go in here. I don't want to screw this up. This is such an important piece, and I don't know if I can do it." And when I read the words, and I read the audition, and it was just fabulous. And yeah, there was this one part when my father's in the hospital, you know, and I have to go tell him that I know what happened. I understand what happened. It was such a big moment for me because I spent so much time in my life in hospitals between my mom and my dad. So yeah, that was the most important moment of the film for me, to be honest with my dad in the hospital and tell him that I loved him and I understand you and I understand why you did what you did. That was compelling to me.
It amazes me the power that Michael has when he connects with the character beats in a scene that he can just bring to the table. He had this vision for the whole character arc where, especially in the early scenes, he kept telling me, "I want to do very, very little. It's like less is more." And we've established Ray's anger. In the very first scene we see him in the film, he willingly goes to save a 15-year-old and sacrifices his life in a 1-on-3 gang fight. And it says a lot about his character and reveals his anger and his dark side. And from that point on, there's maybe 10 minutes in the film where Michael does so much with so little, and constantly on set giving me less. And I learned a valuable lesson there because Michael understood.
He was getting mad at me. He was like, "What are you doing?" Right. He used to say, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I think I'm doing something right." I think the number one thing an actor, from my point of view, is that you have to use yourself. That's all you have. I am this guy, and we all have emotions, so you got to dig in there. And I think the more experiences you have in life, the more you can bring to a character, the more you can identify.
I didn't really give you much of an intro. You've done quite a lot of work. I mean, you're a reoccurring role on ER, and you've done a number of independent films.
Yeah.
So to choose this was a very much a compliment towards Stefan and the writing.
Well, I think it's more he chose me, and I think that was a compliment to me. I was a pain in the neck because a lot of times I would cut out line, or I would say, no, Steph, I don't want to do this. You know, he would relent because he trusted me. It's not really about the actor speaking all the time. It's about the person taking in, reacting from it. It's the moments in between the moments that are so compelling. The love of the work and the love of the script between him and I, and the passion to do it the best that we could, it shows. And I've been in, numerous independent films, and I got to tell you, if I continue in my career just to work in independent films, that'd be fine. Because you get to do things that maybe the studios wouldn't give you an opportunity to do. It's just really awesome.
Since it was so close to you, did you find it easy to find a voice for the characters then?
Yeah, the first draft happened very quickly, and it was a draft that in subsequent revisions didn't change a whole lot. It amazed me how quickly I arrived at the first draft, and compared to other scripts I've written since, how close to the first draft ultimately the script that we shot was.
Stefan, let's get back to the screenplay. Now, you said once you had finished the screenplay, you did win an award.
The screenplay won an award, the Jack Nicholson Screenwriting Award, which is the UCLA Graduate Film Program's top honor. And it won this one actually by mistake. I'd actually already won one for another script, and I had an agent already, and I'm still in graduate school, and they don't like to give it out twice. They want to encourage other writers. So they were going to give me, for this script, a $5,000 award and an internship at a TV company, which they thought was better in the sense that it's 3 times as much money. And the TV company went out of business like a week before the awards ceremony. So they had to give me a second Jack Nicholson, which they didn't want to do. The script went on. It was optioned 5 different times. And in every case, the company or the producer that optioned it didn't change it. They stayed with the original draft. For 10 years, it never got made, although it was close a couple different times. And then when finally I did a securities offering, and an investor came up to me and gave me $50,000, and I had 2 scripts that could be done somewhat inexpensively. And this was one of them because it had come back to me. And I was so thrilled about that. It just seemed that it was meant to be. That's what we're talking about with independent filmmaking here. We put together this tremendous cast, and we had a great casting director, Rick Montgomery, and some key people on early based on the strength of the script. When I had $50,000 in my pocket, which we all knew would barely get us through production. So it was that type of endeavor from the onset.
How did it change on set with Michael's performance and the other actors' performances? Did it change substantially on set, or did it just grow?
It just grew. It started to evolve in rehearsal, and we discovered an awful lot there. And when it comes to performances, when you are in that crucible of rehearsal and you win the actors' trust and they win yours, what actors bring to the table, good actors, it's unbelievable. Their ideas are so pure and so true. On the set, it's World War III in terms of logistics. We have so little time for so many shots and so little coverage and all these other things that we're battling. You just have to find that space and go with your actors. You can't just be like the drill sergeant that's inflexible. If you know your material very well, if it's close to your heart, you know exactly how to let go, but also when people go too far adrift or something's not quite right, immediately it strikes you as false. And so you can always stay to the true course, but you have that flexibility to allow the really good creative stuff to happen with your actors. Then even in post-production, it took on a life of its own. A number of scenes we shot, we ended up not using.
The editing is the final rewrite, and I was involved with you in that. Was there anything that I forced you to lose that you hate me for?
No. At the time, yes. Yeah. But you have that uncanny ability to just get at the essence of a scene. Your first rough assembly was 3 cuts further along than I thought we would be, just because you have that absolute ability to be in the right place in the right time at the right moment on the right character. That was just a delight.
Oh, thank you, Stefan. I know the one place we lost a lot in was the first act, because we realized that a lot of the information that we were trying to show in the first act was actually being revealed in the course of the movie.
Yeah.
And that was a hard revelation for us. We fought that all the way through to post-Santa Barbara Film Festival.
It's true. I tend to love flashbacks. I love the way they layer and texture a story, but they're very dangerous because I'm tempted many times to use flashbacks too soon. I learned what we ended up doing, in essence, was delaying a lot of that information that you get in flashback to let the present tense story kind of weave its spell and get the audience curious about and involved with the characters. And then we start to develop the mysteries through the flashback. flashbacks.
Stefan, as the screenwriter, that has to be hard when people want to either move out parts of your scenes like I did or some of the performances, but I guess that's the nature of the beast.
This is what's going to make him a phenomenal young director, is that he said, okay, you know what, Michael, let's try that. And for somebody to do that with something that he loves so much is incredible, because a lot of people won't do it. They won't let it go. And they miss that moment. They miss that performance because they are so consumed with their own thing. We'll do it again.
Thanks, sure.
Do you have any favorite scenes, any part of the movie that pretty much stayed intact and that you've always loved and still love? He loves the whole thing.
Yeah, there's some scenes I like for technical reasons because they cut together in kind of an innovative way that I was very pleased. Like, again, we had very little coverage on this, and on set I was making certain choices which forced certain editing decisions later on, many times breaking certain rules. And to see those things work, in the editing room and come together, it was edited beautifully. But I think some other scenes where certain performances came out and just came alive, that was to me the biggest delight, is seeing this tremendous cast, and Michael in particular, just get at the essence of a scene and make it come alive in ways I never had even imagined. And Marianne, you tell me, when you're cutting this picture, and was there a particular scene or sequence that you're particularly proud of?
Put me on the carpet, huh? Well, I'm kind of like Michael. It's a sequence that starts in the hospital when the father is dying. When it starts clicking, all the memories start coming back to him, and the mystery that is at the core of the story is starting to be solved. And it's a scene where we go from various locations. We're at the hospital, then we're at the Stonecutter's yard, and he's flashing back to memories, and then we're going back to the hospital, and we're back to the Stonecutters, and we're back to memories. We have all those little bits and pieces put together. I really love the way that came together. That's my favorite sequence. That's the one I put on my reel when someone wants to see something from the Stonecutter.
Oh, neat.
I know you've played at Santa Barbara. You came up with, what award was it about?
Well, it was third place in the audience balloting for Best of the Fest.
And that was with one screening as opposed to two.
Yeah, that was a wild time. I don't think independent filmmakers should do what I do, which is I think you really need to wait till a film is truly finished and present it in its best light. And I had the attitude that we had a rough cut with temp mix, temp score, temp everything. You couldn't even hear half the dialogue. But I thought, what a great opportunity for an audience test screening. And Santa Barbara accepted it out of a number of submissions. And so I got seduced into that. And all the films in competition have two screenings. And we only had one, and that was from the get-go, because I said, I'm not going to be ready in time. I don't want to come. They said, we'll give you on the final day of the festival your screening times. That way it would give me the absolute longest time possible in LA to try and get this rough cut into some semblance. We still had shooting to do when it went up to Santa Barbara. And lo and behold, though, the screening was packed. It was 293 people. And of the 12 judges, only 3 judges showed up because I think they just assumed that this couldn't be real. There's no publicity, no press. Of the other awards, which are judge awards only, we only had 3 of the 12 there, but over 200 people in the audience voted at Best of the Festival. So we finished second place in the total voting, or third place, sorry, for the audience award for Best of the Fest. At the party that evening, like there's this huge buzz about the Stonecutter, and all these judges were coming up and asking about it, but they hadn't seen it, so they hadn't voted on it for any other category. But I shouldn't have been there. It was a good experience. What's just happened now with the finished film, we've just finished it, and it's been accepted to the Method Fest, which is in June in Pasadena, and it's
what date?
I don't know yet because this just happened, but I think I'm going to get Father's Day.
What I'd like to say too, which is so nice about the Method Fest coming from an actor's point of view, is that all the actor studio people that are on the board are the ones that accepted this movie, and I think that's very important because this is really a truly independent film. In Santa Barbara, we were going against $5 million movies, with Joe Mantegna and some of these big-time actors, which I also thought was a major, major compliment.
What's the future hold?
Where it's going to go, I honestly don't know. We have distributors looking at it right now. We have the film festival coming up. I've just cast it out there and see who embraces it.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Michael and Stefan. From Hollywood, this has been Film Story Forum with your host, Marianne Squares, every Friday, 7:30 a.m. on KCLA 99.3 FM and worldwide on KCLAFM.com. We've been talking about the award-winning screenplay and film, The Stonecutter, with writer-director Stefan Erickson and star Michael Cavalieri. This segment of Film Story Forum has been produced and edited by Marianne Squares, with music by Bob Bayless for the Kaleidoscope Radio magazine.